Good morning. We have some major breaking news on the legal front. I mean, this is explosive. Some whistleblowers came forward and exposed an internal memo written by a chief person, high level person at ICE, not as high as Kristi Noem at DHS. Nevertheless, this memo asserted and encouraged ICE officers to violate the U.S. Constitution. This is huge. It was first reported out by the Associated Press. And what's really important here is that we have now in writing evidence, and this memo dates back to May, that ICE was being instructed that they could and should forcibly enter people's homes and arrest them without a judicial warrant. This is huge. And to break this out for you, before I dig into the memo so you can see it for yourself, I'd like to share with you the view of a legal expert who was interviewed by AP on this topic. I am doing this because although I went to law school and I understand what the Constitution is and what specifically the Fourth Amendment says and how it's been interpreted by the courts, I'm not a constitutional law expert, and I would like you to hear from someone who is. So let me go ahead and share this with you.
This DHS memo is a complete shift from Supreme Court precedent. Historically, ICE or any federal agent, they can't enter one's home without a judicial warrant signed by a neutral and detached magistrate. That's what's required under the Fourth Amendment. So this would be a complete change in how these cases have been handled for decades, if not longer, in the United States. An administrative warrant provides probable cause to arrest someone in a public place. When you're talking about a private setting in one's home, that's not just an arrest, it's also a search. So the Supreme Court has made it clear that the Fourth Amendment requires not someone at ICE, but a judge to determine whether that search and arrest is appropriate. If DHS implements this new procedure, what will happen is those arrests will be challenged as an unlawful search and seizure under the Fourth Amendment. And if judges rule that agents were not supposed to enter the home without a warrant, or some other exception to the warrant requirement, such as consent, exigent circumstances, hot pursuit, then that arrest will be dismissed as a constitutional violation.
Okay, let me back up and say, and I hope that I do hope that you saw and heard the most important thing about that. The problem here is that even if ICE officers are following this memo, which it appears they are, and violating the constitutional rights both of immigrants and U.S. citizens, both are protected under the Fourth Amendment. Even if this is what is happening, did you hear what the remedy was? It's something called the exclusionary rule. Basically, the arrest gets thrown out, and anything you might find in someone's home, it could be a different type of situation, but anything you might find in someone's home that you want to use as evidence against them cannot be used in court. Okay, so here's the problem, right? Because there's two different things that happens with an unlawful search. If someone goes in, if the police go in and search your home without a warrant or without one of the exceptions, which he described, like consent, where you say, sure, come in, or exigent circumstances where, for example, they believe a murder is going on in the home at that time. Or the other example he gave is hot pursuit. If you're chasing after somebody and chase them into their home. I'm being very general. Those can be exceptions to the judicial warrant requirement. But the problem is if either, let's say something's found in the home and then you're put on trial, all your remedy is to exclude that evidence. Or in this case, what they're talking about is if someone is arrested and taken into custody, that arrest can be challenged. Well, that's not much of a remedy in the situations we are talking about. I mean, of course, there are separate issues about trying to go after these ICE officers in the case of the use of excessive force and so on. But what I'm talking about is the harm done in Minneapolis to the people in those communities who are living in fear, even if they're not having armed masked agents knock down their door, is tremendous. Now, I'm not saying I don't want to tell you there's no other way ex post to try to challenge this behavior. But what I'm saying is, what do you do if you are in that situation? We saw the elderly man, US citizen in this country, mistaken door, went to the wrong house, they knock it down, they take this guy. I mean, I don't know if that in case they knock down the door, but they arrest this guy. We've seen him on TV, elderly guy. All he's wearing is his boxer shorts. They throw his grandchild's blanket over him, and he's taken out into the cold and later released. These people are knowingly violating the US Constitution, and they need to be stopped. There is a way to do that in a higher level, but let me first show you the evidence of this. Okay, so I want to show you this specific memo, and let me let me show you the U.S. Constitution first. Okay, here we go. Let me show you, because you should see this. These are your rights. Okay, this is the Fourth Amendment, right? Let's read this. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. This is important. Going before a neutral judge or magistrate would require ICE to say, look, this person in this location, we have probable cause that they committed a crime and we want to search their home, or we have probable cause that they are violating the immigration laws and we want to engage in a search. And it would not be a forcible search, by the way. You would knock on the door, they'd open the door, you would show them the judicial warrant. That is not what they want to do. The ICE wants to be able to be deciding themselves with what they're calling administrative warrants, where the agency itself has a list of people and they decide they want to go after them. There is no checks and balances on this. And as the legal expert explained to you, there is different levels of protection under the Fourth Amendment for people. So depending on their location, you are most protected in your home, whether you are an owner or a renter. That is your greatest level of protection from government search and seizure. Okay, and then we get less protection as we move out away from there into public spaces. And that is why an administrative warrant in a public place like a courthouse, et cetera, is a different animal. But that's not what we're talking about here. Now, I would like to share with you this memo that the lawyers for these whistleblowers shared with us. So let me share with the AP, the Associated Press. So let's look at this. Okay, guys, this is, and I really wish I could get this to the screen to open more, but this is what I got. Okay, so this says the law firm is called Whistleblower Aid. This is a memo that was sent, it appears to have been sent to members of Congress, because you can see on the left, it says redacted for Congress. And it says anonymous whistleblower disclosure, January 7th, 2026. Again, the AP got their hands on it yesterday, the 21st. Here is what the subject line says. Secretive DHS memo authorizes ICE to illegally enter homes without a judicial warrant in violation of the First Amendment. And you can see they lay out here, this is 24 pages, and I'm not going to read all of it, but I am going to drop this for you in the chat, should you like to go ahead and do that. I want to highlight some key things, and I'm going to now remove this from the screen so you don't have to stare at it. I want to highlight some key things that are revealed here. First of all, we're talking about the whistleblowers first. There are two people who came forward anonymously. Obviously, they're not anonymous to their lawyers, but they're coming forward now anonymously. These people are U.S. government officials, and they came forward with what they believed is a secret and unconstitutional policy. And this is something that was issued by the acting ICE director in May. His name was Todd Lyons. And the basic facts of this policy were captured in a May 12th memo, May 12th, 2025, right, this past year. And what the acting ICE director was telling ICE agents in the field was that they could rely on something called a Form I-205, and that is not a judicial warrant. They could rely on a form to forcibly enter the residence of someone they believed was an alien who was subject to a final order of deportation. They could do it without consent and without a judicial warrant. And they also authorized, quote, a necessary and reasonable amount of force. In other words, you could, if you were not let in the door, break down the door. Now, this memo was addressed to all ICE personnel, but what the whistleblowers are informing us is that it has not actually been circulated, apparently, to all employees. Instead, the way this unconstitutional practice was disseminated was that it was done verbally. So select, according to this letter from the whistleblower's law firm, there was this policy, and then the policy was shared verbally with certain DHS officials who then obviously they would show the memo, to show it to some employees, told them to read it, and then return it to their supervisor. They knew this was wrong. They did not want this to be circulated. And so again, they would have a written memo, they would show it to people, and then take it back. Talk about consciousness of wrongdoing. And I want to add something that's pretty key here, that it is clear that they would have known about the Fourth Amendment. And this is ahistorical. Until this memo, these Form 205s had not been used to allow for entry into a home, period, because it's not a judicial warrant. Again, this person who signs one of these forms, these administrative warrants, is not a neutral and detached magistrate under the meaning of the Fourth Amendment. And I just think, I cannot actually, it's very hard to describe to you how absolutely wrong this is and how wonderful it is that these people have come forward. It's phenomenal. And I think that is where I want to leave that. But I want to, what I want to supplement this with is to show you that even if this policy of violently knocking down doors is not what they plan to do without warrants, there are other things that they are doing that are morally reprehensible and unlawful. And I need to share with you what happened with a 5-year-old child. I think you might know about this. There was a 5-year-old child who was getting, his mom had gotten him ready to go to school. And I just, here, let me, I'm gonna, okay. 5-year-old child who was getting ready for school, and apparently an ICE agent used this kid, took him, and detained him so that to coerce, to trick the parents into into letting them in the home. So it's outrageous. This was a preschooler. His name is Liam Ramos. He and his father were taken into custody in their driveway. This was an ICE agent detained a 5-year-old on his way home from school. I want to share this with you, a quick video on this. The evil of these people will not end until we stop funding ICE. They cannot be reformed. They cannot be changed. This agency must be defunded and abolished without question. Okay, so I want to share this with you. And here we go.
District says 4 of their students have been detained by ICE agents over the past few weeks. That includes this 5-year-old boy, Liam Ramos, who school officials say was taken into custody with his father on his way home from school yesterday. Gordon Severson joins us now with more details. Gordon?
Yeah, this all happened as Liam and his father were driving home from preschool. According to Columbia Heights superintendent, she says ICE agents detained Liam and his father, and the family's lawyer says they are likely being held at a detention facility in Texas. School leaders are now speaking out because they say Liam is the 4th student in the district who has been detained by ICE over the last 2 weeks. Inside Valley View Elementary in Columbia Heights, there's a preschool classroom filled with 4- and 5-year-olds who may soon wonder what happened to one of their classmates, Liam Ramos.
He's a bright young student, and he's so kind.
Ella Sullivan is Liam's preschool teacher. She says her students haven't asked about Liam yet, but they will, and she and other teachers wonder how they can possibly answer their questions.
All I want is for him to be safe and back here.
The family's lawyer says Liam is likely being held with his father at a detention facility in Texas.
We have clients that once they're picked up, they're whisked away to the airport literally within hours.
School officials say Liam is one of 4 students who have been detained by ICE agents over the last 2 weeks, including another student who was also detained on Tuesday.
On the way to school, a 17-year-old high school student, a minor, was taken by armed, masked agents. Alone. No parents were present.
Superintendent Zena Stenvik says the other 2 students include another 17-year-old and her mother, who were detained by ICE last.
Okay. And I want to give you a little more details about this little boy, Liam Ramos. Okay. So let me share that with you. Here's a piece in The Guardian about this. Okay, so here is Liam Ramos. This is a 5-year-old child. 5 years old. I think that's like a Lilo hat, or I don't even know. Look at this little boy with his backpack bundled up in his hat, looking sad and scared. Okay, so let me read this to you. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement detained a 5-year-old Minnesota boy on Tuesday as he returned home from school and transported him and his father to a Texas detention center. That's from Minnesota to Texas. Liam Ramos, a preschool, and his father were taken into custody while in their driveway. Liam and his father had just arrived home when they were detained, according to the superintendent. When she arrived, this is the superintendent said, the father's car was still running and the father and son had already been apprehended. This is outrageous. This is crazy. I don't understand how folks can be doing this to children, and to the elderly, and to anyone who is a human being. I want to add a little bit about this man. I'm going to share with you the man in Minnesota who was removed by ICE when he was in just his underwear and boxer shorts. Okay, so let me share that with you, and then I've got a little bit more of a breaking news update for you. Here we go.
A terrifying moment for a U.S. citizen forcibly removed from his St. Paul, Minnesota home by masked federal immigration agents. With guns drawn and without a warrant, they burst through the door of Chung-Li Tao's home and forced him out into the sub-freezing temperatures wearing only shorts and sandals.
They pointed a gun to me and my daughter-in-law, and then they told me to come out here without my clothes on. I wear short only, and then they just handcuffed me right there.
Do not talk to them!
Neighbors were heard screaming at the ICE agents. Motorists blared their horns. Chung-Li has been a U.S. citizen for decades. Adding to his difficulty was his 4-year-old grandson witnessing his detention.
My grandson watched everything. After they took me, he was crying, looking for me.
Before removing him, Chung-Li asked his daughter-in-law to find his identification, but he said the agents told him they didn't want to see it. Chung-Li said the ICE agents drove him to the middle of nowhere and made him get out of the car in frigid weather so they could take his picture. After a couple of hours, the agents realized they made a terrible mistake.
My son grabbed my ID, showed it to them. They just said, okay, you're good. So they freed me. Yeah. And they didn't say anything. They didn't say sorry or anything. They just, okay, you're good. They just left.
This is the latest incident in Minneapolis, St. Paul, where ICE agents are facing backlash for warrantless arrests, aggressive clashes with protesters, and the shooting death of Renee Good.
Okay. I want to return to the child, Liam Ramos, because it's more complicated than, as I mentioned, the father and son being arrested, the 5-year-old and his father being arrested in the driveway. There was luring, as I mentioned, taking the kid and using him to try to get in the home. So let me share that with you. I want to share the evidence of this. Okay, here is beautiful Liam Ramos. This is, by the way, the London Times. This is how we are perceived across the globe. We know it here. There's Liam Ramos. And the agent took Ramos out of the still running car, led him to the door, and directed him to knock on the door, asking to be let in order to see if anyone else was home, essentially using a 5-year-old as bait. Also, this is what the superintendent said. The official said the family had an active asylum case with no order of deportation. And the official said that she had looked at the paperwork with my own eyes. For people who say our institutions have held, we are on a thread. We cannot allow the Senate to agree to fund ICE. Now, I know the House is voting for this, and I think there are enough Democrats in the House who will let this through. But the Senate is another animal. They need, in order to get to 60, they're going to need 7 Democrats to vote to fund ICE. Shut the whole damn government down. Do not fund this. Don't fund it. Let the other, whatever bills that have funded the government, let those go through. Fund that. But don't fund this part of the budget. They've got the rest of it done. Don't agree to fund the Department of Homeland Security for this year, period. It's pretty flippin' simple. You cannot reform these people. And I don't know enough about the appropriations process to know whether they can just move through with the budgets that they have, the parts of the budgets that are funded, and just not add funding for DHS. Like, I don't know what that looks like, how it goes. Doesn't seem like you've got to shut the whole government down for that. And if you do, I don't care. If you give ICE the additional funds that they need, it won't just be Minnesota. They will be going, or Illinois, sort of going from place to place to place. They will be in 3 or 4 or 5 cities all at once. It's unacceptable. I think you know that, how strongly I feel about that. Now, I want to add to our conversation now to talk to you about some other breaking news. And that is lawyers out of Chicago who represent the family of Renee Nicole Good have hired someone to conduct their own autopsy. And the results of that autopsy affirm what we suspected based on watching her murder. Jonathan Ross fired into that car at least 3 times. And what we know is, and I want to share a photo of Renee as I say this out of respect for her memory. Okay. What we know is that the first, that there were, we know there were 3 shots. I'm not going to tell you the order of them, but you'll be able to figure this out. One of the shots that hit her, one of the shots hit her in her, okay, so one bullet, not in order, struck her in her left forearm, so the left forearm, and that resulted in a soft tissue hemorrhage. Another shot traveled through her right breast, but didn't penetrate any major organs. But the third gunshot, and we know this was the third because it was into her left temple. This was the one that was fatal. It entered into the left side of her head near the temple and exited the right side of her head. That shot was fired when the ICE agent, Jonathan Ross, was on the other side. He had already come around from the corner of her car. She was turned away, trying to drive away after she had been shot in the forearm and in the breast, right? And this did, in her right breast, it didn't get hit an organ. She had hemorrhaging in her left arm. But if that were the only shot and medics came to her, she would not have died. It was the shot into her temple that he made from the side of her car when he was completely safe. There is no argument that he wasn't. There is no question that is excessive force. And yet, the DOJ has decided they are not, and we've heard Todd Blanche, who's a deputy attorney general, speak to this. We haven't heard Pam Bondi recently speak to this. Todd Blanche, the deputy attorney general, is not going to investigate her murderer, Jonathan Ross. Instead, they want to investigate her wife because she was at a protest. We must have the local law enforcement in Minnesota bring this case. And of course, the federal government is trying to intimidate the prosecutors and the attorney general of the state and the mayor of Minneapolis, and I can go on and on. They are trying to do anything they can to cover up and refuse to investigate this murder. I want to share with you a beautiful photograph of Renee, Nicole, and Becca Good. I want you to see this. This breaks my heart. They are a gorgeous couple. They look so happy. And the idea that Becca Good had to be there to witness the murder of her wife and now is being investigated. Now, to add insult to injury, Donald Trump was asked about this week. Again, asked about the murder of the shooting, because they don't think they used the word murder, the shooting, death of Renee Nicole Good. And I think you might know, it may shock you what he said, but not fully surprise you. Hold on one second. Because, as you know, for Donald Trump, everything is about Donald Trump, right? You know this. And I got to show this to you because, okay, here he was before he went to Davos, what he had to say about this. It is, let me let it speak for itself. Let me let this monster speak for himself.
You're going to make a mistake. Sometimes it can happen. We feel terribly. I felt horribly when I was told that the young woman who was had the tragedy. It's a tragedy. It's a horrible thing. Everybody would say, ICE would say the same thing. But when I learned her parents and her father in particular I hope he still is, but I don't know, was a tremendous Trump fan. He was all for Trump, loved Trump. And, it's terrible. I was told that by a lot of people. They said, oh, he loves you. He was I hope he still feels that way. I don't know. It's a hard situation. But her father was a tremendous, and parents were tremendous Trump fans. It's so sad. It just happens. It's terrible.
Malignant narcissist doesn't even begin to describe that. This man's daughter was murdered by an ICE agent. The government is lying about it, try to smear her, say she was violent, that she caused this, refuses to investigate, is going after her wife. And what Donald Trump wants to know is whether the father is still a Trump supporter. This is the leader of the Republican Party. As I've told you, the Republicans have the power to take this guy, this vulgar guy, out of office through the impeachment process. 3 in the House, 20 in the Senate. Their failure to do so, and you don't need this vulgarity as the grounds. There are plenty of other grounds, my friends. I don't want to go through the legal grounds. They are there. The fact that they're not doing it means that they are no different from this man. It is beyond outrageous. And so what I want to also show for you is how the family has reacted to that. Okay. Now, let's share that with you. I want to make sure I can, oops, I'm just trying to get this to you right now. I think they deserve their say in this at this moment. And okay, let me just try to, I think I can do this for you guys. Okay, I'm bringing this to the screen. Yeah, let me play this for you.
I do anything.
Oh, sorry. I am going to
Sensitivities?
mute. I'm going to remove this until the ad is over because we don't need to add to the number of ads that you see. Here we go. Sorry.
President did talk about the shooting yesterday. He said that ICE, I'm paraphrasing here, ICE sometimes makes mistakes, but he lamented the loss of Renee Good. And then he actually said this about Renee's father. Listen.
When I learned her parents and her father in particular I hope he still is, but I don't know, was a tremendous Trump fan. He was all for Trump, loved Trump. And, it's terrible. I was told that by a lot of people. They said, oh, he loves you. He was I hope he still feels that way. I don't know. It's a hard situation.
Have you spoken to her father since these comments?
Well, I can tell you this, the video evidence is clear. And we're hoping that everybody who has any hand in this case, that's involved in this case, has looked at that video evidence and can see the extreme and excessive force. What I can tell you about her father is this family is unified. They are together. Whether or not one of them voted for this administration in the past election or not, right now that's not as relevant as they are together, unified in their quest for justice and accountability.
Okay. So that was, you heard from the lawyer for the family. Wow, he showed a lot more restraint than I would have in that situation. I'm just saying that. But of course, if I were in that role, I would have to show restraint. But here's the good news. I'm not in that role. You get to see the real me. I don't need to show you any restraint, which means it is time for Crazy Town. Before I do Crazy Town, I want to let you know at 10 a.m., you can, if you want, watch the live testimony of Jack Smith. And it's going to be running from 10 to 2, House Judiciary Committee. I'm not live streaming that because I'll show you some excerpts tomorrow. I got some writing to do today. You've got your lives to go on with. And I really don't think I want to hear people shouting at him from the Republican side for several hours. So if you want to watch, great. You can probably find it on C-SPAN or whatever cable news you watch, or maybe one of the independent news media shows you like to watch. So letting you know that. But let me share several helpings of Crazy Town for you. Okay, here we go. And this is, of course, Maria Bartiromo indoors without her hat or sunglasses at Davos. This is wild. So let's listen. Oops. I'm sorry, guys.
Economy, Mr. President, because when I first interviewed you, when you first came back, it was about a month after the inauguration for your second term. I asked you, Mr. President, what do you want the economy to look like in 4 years? And you were very clear. You said, I want the private sector to rule the day. And since then, in the last year, you've taken a 10% stake in Intel. You've taken a stake in MP, Mountain Pass. You told the defense companies 2 weeks ago, don't pay any dividends, don't do buybacks until you produce the weapons that we need. So please explain to our audience, how is that free market capitalism?
Well, it's very free market. We have defense companies that were making a fortune. They were buying back stock with all their money. And then they come to us for money if they want to, we want to buy something or we want to have plants built. And they'd say, could you loan us the money? And they'd be doing tens of billions of dollars of stock buybacks. So I'm not letting them do it. I want them to put money into, we have the best equipment in the world, the Patriots.
Okay. So I'm not exactly sure, just because he said it's the freest market ever, how that is the case. So here's another crazy thing. Donald Trump, as you know, has backed off taking Greenland by force, but somehow he's pretending like it was a victory. Okay, but the story isn't over about what an idiot this man is. And so I got one more helping of Crazy Town before we leave. Let's play this. Okay, I think I got it. Let's go.
Two-way street.
So what should we expect from the European countries? I mean, they've got this EU anti-coercion instrument that would be, services, impacting our services, as you said. And then the Danish pension fund said that they're going to exit U.S. treasuries, $100 million treasuries at the end of December. European countries hold trillions of stocks and bonds from the U.S. Do you worry that they would start selling those in retaliation?
If they do, they do. But, if that would happen, there would be a big retaliation on our part. And we have all the cards.
Mm-hmm. And
yeah, I've heard Donald Trump say he has all the cards, and he doesn't. Even so, we need to take the deck away from this joker. It is enough is enough. I've had enough. If you have, I'm hoping that you will do this. Call your senators and tell them you do not want them to fund the Department of Homeland Security. Call them, 202-224-3121. You've got two senators. You can do this once for one of them and once for the other. Just the switchboard will ask you what state you're from, and they will connect you. People have been doing this kind of thing, and sometimes you end up in voicemail. That's okay. They count the calls. I appreciate you. I appreciate everything you're doing. We are in this together, as my friend Joyce Vance often says, and you can do this. Call today, call every day. Put it as part of your routine after you've had your cup of coffee and watched the show, 202-224-3121. I want to thank the most amazing mods on the planet. It's a fact. Jason, Deb, and AJ, thank you for bringing us together, for reminding people to hit like and subscribe. It's free to the show. Thanks, guys. Have a great Thursday. And thank God tomorrow is Friday.
Hello, prison mates. It's the Gen Taub Show, where welcome everyone. Let's learn about what is happening in politics yesterday and today. There was hope, and we are together in this democracy we work for. And again, welcome to the Gen Taub Show.